Eagle 95.1 WUPN Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game!
Glorious! No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios on Ashman Street on the special edition Tuesday night. Normally we are at the Wicked Sister on Monday nights, but because of Brimley Bay's basketball for the past 3 weeks, we have not been able to be at our favorite location in Sault Ste. Marie. Great host to this sports show, The Game, but we will be there next Monday, March 19th. There are no conflicts as far as broadcasts, and so we will be back at the Wicked Sister on Monday, March 19th. They'll be joined in the second half of the show by Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports, who will get us up to date on what's going on in the world of sports in the Metro Detroit area and, of course, sports around the country, even around the world. But let's get everyone up to date on what's going on in local sports over this past week. Lots of girls and boys basketball to talk about. Let's recap starting last Tuesday night in girls regional action in Class B. The Soo Blue Devils gave Kingsley, the number one team in Class B in girls basketball, all they could handle in Sheboygan, but ended up falling to the Kingsley Stags by the score of 49-45. Ashton Bell scored 16 points to lead the Blue Devils as Soo ends their season at 16-6. St. Ignace in Class C girls basketball regional semifinal had no trouble over Ishpeming, winning by the score of 68-34. Linny Gustafson scored 22 points and had 10 rebounds to lead the Saints, who advanced to the Class C regional final played last Thursday. Couple games on Tuesday night in girls basketball, regional semifinals in St. Ignace in Class D. Rudyard Bulldogs season ended as they lost to Gaylord St. Mary's by the score of 73-51. So Rudyard ends their season 8-15, but they do capture a district title for the first time in several years. Cedarville in girls basketball won their regional semifinal last Tuesday night as they defeated Harbor Light Christian by the score of 56-34. So Cedarville advanced to the regional final, which was played on Thursday in St. Ignace. So we had two EUP teams in girls basketball potentially to get to the quarterfinals, which are being played tonight, as a matter of fact, and one team did advance, the St. Ignace Saints. No surprise there, winning their 9th straight regional title in girls basketball as they defeated Ishpeming. I think I said Ishpeming earlier. I meant to say St. Ignace defeated Houghton on Tuesday night, defeated Ishpeming on Thursday by the score of 70-56. Linny Gustafson had 18 points for the Saints along with 15 rebounds. So St. Ignace in action right about now. That game just tipping off in Gaylord. Class C quarterfinal between the 23-1 St. Ignace Saints and the 22-2 Maple City Glen Lake Lakers. So that should be a fantastic game. Hopefully, we'll try to get a final before we're done tonight, but if not, we'll definitely talk about that next week on the game. And the Cedarville Trojans lost their final game of the season in girls basketball, losing in the regional final in St. Ignace to Gaylord St. Mary's by the score of 61-51 as Gaylord St. Mary's advances to the quarterfinal in Class D, and Cedarville ends their season at 20-4. Boys basketball from last week, district action. Then we'll get to the regionals, which were played last night. First of all, Straits Area Conference awards were handed out in boys basketball, and for the second straight season, Sioux High senior Brandon Paul won the Straits Area Conference top boys basketball player. He was also named Defensive Player of the Year. Sioux High senior guard Shane Thompson was also named to the Straits Area Conference first team. Juniors Dylan Mills and Paul Staker of Rudyard, along with Sheboygan's Max Klinger and Newberry's Jalen James, also named to the Straits Area Conference all first team. Boys basketball from Wednesday night, the Brimley Bays defeated Engadine by the score of 54-50 to win their first district title since 2005. Marcus Harris had 18 points for the Bays, while Josh Gross and Sam Hopper had 16 and 14 off the bench. Andrew Blanchard scored 19 to lead the Eagles, as they end their season at 16-6, and Brimley advances to the regionals, which were played last night in Pellston. We'll talk about that in a moment. Pickford advanced to the finals of the district last Wednesday as they defeated Detour by the score of 53-36. Cedarville over Maplewood Baptist 83-23, so Cedarville and Pickford would play in the district final on Friday in Detour. Sioux High boys basketball team ended their season 11-11 as they lost to the Boyne City Ramblers by the score of 53-38 in their Class B District 64 semifinal, and St. Ignace would end their season at 1-21 as they fell to Indian River Inland Lakes last Wednesday in their district semifinal 59-45. Last Friday, Cedarville over Pickford by the score of 66-42 as they advanced to the regional semifinal, which was played last night in Pellston. Again, we'll get to that in a moment. Want to mention a couple other items as far as Straits Area Conference Players of the Year as well as EUP Conference Players of the Year. First of all, in girls, Linny Gustafson and Emily Koivu were named co-Straits Area Conference Players of the Year in girls basketball for the St. Ignace Saints. Keisha Davis of St. Ignace also named to the first team along with Mackenzie Kalchuk and Val Gage. Cedarville's Dakota Fairchild was named EUP Conference Boys Basketball Player of the Year, and Brimley sophomore Zach Gross was named Defensive Player of the Year. Trey Norris of Cedarville also named to the EUP Conference first team along with Andrew Blanchard and Scout Bigger of Engadine, Jimmy Story of Pickford, and Dylan Mills of Rudyard. Brimley's Tristan Lyons and Caleb Johansson were named to the second team for boys basketball. So last night, the Class D regional semifinals were in Pellston. The first game featured Cedarville taking on the Pellston Hornets, and it was all Trojans as Tristan Masuga scored 20 points. Dakota Fairchild added 17 as Cedarville improves to 20-3 on the season as they defeat Pellston by the score of 79-47 as they advance to the Class D regional final, and they will face the Brimley Bays in a game you heard on Eagle 95.1 last night. Yours truly, along with Todd Olmstead and my son Vance Nason, were down in Pellston, and it wasn't the prettiest win, but hey, when you get to this stage, any win is welcome, as the Bays slugged out a 59-38 win over Wolverine in their Class D regional semifinal. Tristan Lyons, he was the big gun for the Brimley Bays, scoring 22 points. Caleb Johansson, 14. Marcus Harris, he earned 2 early fouls, and that really took him out of the game, especially in that first half. He ended up finishing with 5 points. And so the stage is set, something we've been talking about on the game really since the high school basketball season began, and definitely on the Brimley Bays broadcast as far as when the districts were announced, the regionals, and how everything's set up. I don't think anybody's that surprised that Brimley and Cedarville will be meeting in the regional finals, which will be played tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Now, a big change in that game. It was slated to be in Pellston tomorrow night, but the athletic directors of both Cedarville and Brimley got with Sioux High's athletic director, and I'm sure Pellston's athletic director was also involved, and everybody decided that they are going to play that game at Sioux High's Gymnasium tomorrow night at 6. So we'll be there with the broadcast on Eagle 95.1. Yours truly along with Todd Olmsted. And now that the game is in Sault Ste. Marie, my son Vance Nason will be around for that broadcast. And again, that game will be at Sioux High's Gymnasium. Going to be a packed house, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And if Brimley advances, we will be in Escanaba for the Class D quarterfinal featuring Brimley or Cedarville. Again, if Brimley wins, we'll be there for the broadcast, and they will take on either undefeated Dollar Bay or Kearney Nadeau, as Kearney Nadeau upset Ewan Trout Creek last night in Negaunee, and they're playing their regional final tomorrow night. So we are hoping to have more Brimley Bays basketball, because right now all it takes you is 2 more wins, and it gets you to the Breslin Center for the Final Four. And if Brimley would advance, that game would be Thursday night, 5 o'clock at the Breslin Center, with the Class D championship game Saturday morning at 10. And again, if Brimley is there, we will be there every step of the way, and it has been a lot of fun. And make sure you tune in tomorrow night for the broadcast. Again, 5:40 pregame show, 6 o'clock opening tip, and you can hear the podcast of last night's regional semifinal, as well as this show, as well as tomorrow night's Brimley Bays broadcast on the podcast page of our show. And you can find it at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Once again, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We put up all the game broadcasts, including Dave McKegg's shows from Boston Pizza and Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario. We'll have another one of those later on this week. And we have Brimley Bays basketball, Sioux Eagles hockey, Butch on Sports, The Drive with Paul Van Wagner, ESPN Blacksburg, a whole bunch of sports information. And the best part is, free of charge. Let's move on to the junior hockey world as well. We do know the playoff matchups in the West Division. Those were finally sorted out this past week. Going back to last Tuesday, Rayside Balfour clinched first in the NLJHL's West Division with a 3-1 win over the Sioux Thunderbirds at the John Rhodes Community Center. So that left a very interesting scenario for the Eagles on Wednesday. The Sioux Eagles just needed a point in their final regular season game last Wednesday at the Sioux Thunderbirds to clinch third spot and to avoid that first round series with Elliott Lake. And well, the Eagles did just that. It came down to the wire, but they do win the game in overtime, as Nick Teckel scored in overtime. But really the main thing in that game was the Eagles just getting to overtime, because they got that extra point and they earned the third seed. So the Eagles and the Sioux Thunderbirds will take part in their West Division semifinal. That will start on Saturday night. This Saturday night at the John Rhodes Community Center, Game 1 between the Eagles and the Thunderbirds. 7:30 face-off on Saturday, March 17th. Game 2 will be on Monday at the John Rhodes Community Center. Again, 7:30 face-off. And Game 3 will be a week from Wednesday, March 21st at the Puller Stadium, 7 o'clock face-off. Game 4 scheduled for a week from Friday, March 23rd, between the Eagles and Thunderbirds. That one set for 7:30. And then looking ahead, if there's a Game 5, it'll be a week from Saturday, March 24th at the John Rhodes Community Center. And if the Eagles and Thunderbirds go to a Game 6, it'll be on Monday, March 26th at 7 o'clock at Puller Stadium. If it goes the full tilt, that Game 7 will be on Wednesday, March 28th at the John Rhodes Community Center. So the Eagles and Thunderbirds border battle in the playoffs, and it is going to be fun. And we'll have the podcasts of the home games that we do for Hockey TV right here on the sports show called The Game. And the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Well, the Rayside Balfour Canadians do know who they will face in their semifinal, as Blind River won that first-round series by 2-0 count as they defeated Elliott Lake on Sunday by the score of 5-4. So you have the Eagles and Thunderbirds, Rayside and Blind River, and the winners of those two series will face each other probably starting in April in the NLJHL's West Division Final. The East Division is not quite set as far as their playoff matchups. Last night, Hearst defeated Timmins by the score of 3-2, so that series tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 will be in Hearst on Wednesday, and the winner of that one will take on the Powassan Voodoos starting on Saturday. The other series in the East sees Kirkland Lake taking on Cochrane in a best-of-7 affair. Game 1 will be in Cochrane on Friday night. So that's your NLJHL roundup. Let's move on to the Sioux Greyhounds. Well, they did have 3 games on the road this week, And the games really don't mean a whole lot as far as standings. The Greyhounds have already locked up first place in the Ontario Hockey League, but they did set a franchise mark with that point yesterday. 111 points on the season with 3 games to play. And the Sioux Greyhounds set a franchise record with points as they go 1-1 on the road trip. They lose at Windsor on Thursday night by the score of 3-2. They do defeat Kitchener on Friday by the score of 4-3. And then yesterday dropping a 6-5 decision to the Owen Sound Attack in the shootout as Morgan Frost scored a pair of goals, including his 40th of the season. Now the Hounds will have their final homestand of the regular season starting on Wednesday as they will take on Saginaw Friday. They'll host Flint, and then Sunday afternoon they will host the London Knights before the playoffs begin, and we don't know exactly the date where the playoffs will begin, and we don't know who the Greyhounds will be playing in the playoffs. We do know they have home ice throughout the entire Ontario Hockey League playoffs, and right now it looks like potential opponents could be either Guelph, Windsor, or Saginaw. Windsor and Saginaw both have 66 points, and Guelph has 65, and you got to figure that those teams are going to want to avoid 8th place at all cost. And no offense to the Sarnia Stinger, Kitchener Rangers, or even London Knights as potential opponents, but I think if you're Windsor, Saginaw, and Guelph, you do not want to face the Sioux Greyhounds, 111 points. And so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll know next week on the game who the Greyhounds may be playing as far as their Ontario Hockey League playoffs. Well, college hockey not going on here locally, but it is in the UP. How about the Michigan Tech Huskies and the Northern Michigan Wildcats? They both earn overtime victories on Sunday night in their respective WCHA semifinals, and they advance to the WCHA championship game, which will be played Saturday night at the Barrie Event Center in Marquette, Michigan. Got some pictures from Lakeview Arena. The fans were lined up, long lines, 2-3 hour waits. It was great to see, and really happy for Joey Sean. First-year head coach for the Michigan Tech Huskies. This guy has been a winner and has run a winning program and a clean program wherever he has gone. And Michigan Tech, hey, they interviewed the guy. Probably a good thing with his resume, and he got the job. And Michigan Tech in the WCHA finals at Northern Michigan, and you got to give it up to first-year head coach Dave Putney for the Northern Michigan Wildcats, turning it around in a quick amount of time. So the Wildcats and Huskies, Saturday night, Marquette, 1 game only, and the winner advances to the NCAA hockey tournament. And so best of luck to both teams, but yours truly pulling for Joey Sean and the Michigan Tech Huskies. Joey Sean doing things right at Michigan Tech. Laker basketball in action in Division II playoffs. They were down in Big Rapids for their regional semifinal. They did defeat Hillsdale in their first game by the score of 81-67, and they would advance to the regional final against very tough Ferris State, and for the third time this season, Ferris State did knock off the Lakers by the score of 94-71, so the Bulldogs advance to take on Findlay in the Sweet 16 regional final, that game being played tonight. And the Lakers end a very successful season at 25-8, and a big congratulations goes out to Coach Steve Henninga and the Laker men, including our own Lance Monroe here on the Eagle board op as his final game, a very successful season, and I would expect once again the Lakers to be as successful next season, if not more. Laker tennis started their season on the road. The Laker men's and women's tennis teams split their non-conference doubleheader on Friday at Bellarmine. They swept the Knights 9-0, while the women fell 8-1. With the loss, the Laker men improved to 4-3 on the season, while the women fall to 4-11. And then the Lakers would sweep Alma on Sunday, winning both by a 9-0 count, as the Lakers women have officially ended their campaign at 6-11, while the men, they're going to kick off their GLIAC schedule on March 21st as they host Northwood inside the Student Activities Center on the campus of LSSU, and all Laker tennis matches are free to attend. And this the first day of high school baseball and softball practice. And if you're looking outside right now your window and listening in the Eastern Upper Peninsula or Northern Algoma region, you're saying, what are you talking about? Well, not too far down the road that we're going to be talking spring sports as the baseball and softball seasons will begin. Looks like it's going to begin a little bit late this year. We're going to need some of the snow to melt. I know some of the southern reaches of our area down in St. Ignace, I know it's a lot better. Downstate, it's certainly better. Down in Pellston, they didn't have a lot of snow. But here in Sault Ste. Marie, Rudyard, even Brimley, Pickford, it's going to take a little while for the fields to clear. Hopefully we'll get some games in late April, as yours truly does some officiating, umpiring for high school softball and baseball. And my first gig is April 11th in Rudyard. Don't know if that's going to happen. We're going to need Mother Nature to cooperate. So that is your local sports roundup here on the game. Don't forget, tomorrow night we will have Brimley Bay's regional final basketball action from Sioux High. It is going to be a packed gym, one of the biggest games we've had in the EUP, involving EUP teams in quite some time. Yours truly, Todd Olmstead, Vance Nason, our statistician Don Supa will be there. We'll have a full house on the gondola inside the Sioux High gym as the Brimley Bays will take on the Cedarville Trojans, with the winner advancing to the Class D quarterfinal Tuesday night in Escanaba. We're going to take a break on the game. When we come back, we're going to hear from Butch Davis from the Telegram News and the radio show Butch on Sports. You can find Butch's show on this podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We're going to talk with Butch about several things, including what's going on with the Red Wings and Pistons. Things are not going well for either two of those squads. We'll also maybe look at the Tigers and their spring training. Not too far down the road, we'll be talking opening day for the Detroit Tigers. We'll talk about NCAA basketball, Michigan, Michigan State, and some of the other teams that we think might be making some noise. Who knows? Maybe we'll go through our brackets. We'll have our thumbs up and thumbs down. Always a good time with Butch. And he's coming up next on the game here on Eagle 95.1.
The Wicked Sister, Sioux, Michigan. Check TripAdvisor. Ranked right towards the top. Awarded the Certificate of Excellence, as well as voted #1 pub in the UP. The Wicked Sister has managed to create a casual menu that offers unique, creative, and sometimes healthy offerings that rivals menu selections of any big city. Burgers and starters, snacks and shareable soups and salads, sandwiches and tapas. On Ashman Street, Sioux, Michigan. Welcome to the Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
Thank you for tuning in to the game. Heard Monday nights from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street on Eagle 95.1. Also online at radioeaglesioux.com and the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. I hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Now, if you want to hear more of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national talk show, I encourage you to visit our website at thegamesportshow.com, and you can tune into a pair of broadcasts of the Game Sports Show from Sault, Ontario. Our co-host here on the game, Mr. Electric Avenue Dave McKegg, broadcasts the show on Wednesday night from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sault, Ontario, along with his regular contributors, Jamie Antonello, Justin Heichel, and Dane Hantro. They focus on football with their In the Pocket segment, talking about the NFL, along with basketball and the NBA, and other sports, including tennis, golf, soccer, and the WWE. If you like hockey, Thursday nights are for you, as the Game Sports Show is broadcasting from Boston Pizza in Sault, Ontario, with Dave McKegg, along with his regular contributors, Justin Heichel and Dane Hantro. Now, this show focuses on hockey in the wintertime and baseball in the summer, and will include guests and interviews from local and national figures. Once again, you can hear 3 versions of the game at our website, thegamesportshow.com, or at the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Also on the podcast page, you will find selected audio broadcasts of Sioux Eagles home games, Brimley Bays basketball, and Sioux High Blue Devil hockey, along with game contributor Butch Davis and his broadcasts of Butch on Sports. You can also find us on YouTube. Look for the Scott Nason channel. Thank you for listening, and keep it locked here to the game for all your local, regional, and national sports talk that you just can't get enough of. Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting on this special Tuesday night edition of the game from still bright Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this Tuesday night. And we're joined once again by our usual co-host and contributor, Butch Davis from the Telegram News and the radio show Butch on Sports. You can find his show on the podcast page, simply Butch2, that's TOO.podomatic.com, or you can also find his broadcasts of Butch on Sports right here on the podcast page of our show, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Butch, how are you doing on this Tuesday night, my friend?
Busy as a bee here all week long with basketball and all the other good stuff going on here in Metro Detroit area there.
Butch, we talked about the basketball going on here. Let's start with the high school basketball. You have the girls' quarterfinals going on tonight in all classes. The boys' regional finals will be tomorrow night. Who are some of the teams that you are covering, and how are they doing? Just give us a kind of a recap of what's going on there.
Well, Wayne Memorial is a surprising team to come out the wet wash. They're still in the game here, including teams like River Rouge is a big favorite, of course, in Class B there to keep on moving on and probably will get to the semifinals in Lansing if I was a betting man there. They got some hard work to do pretty quickly, pretty soon here, I do believe tonight, okay, for the finals of the regionals there before they move on to the girls, and some surprising teams there and going on with them and at Calvin College there. It's going to be a pretty wacky thing here with some of the players who are going to come out on Thursday for the girls there.
Yeah, and of course we have St. Ignace playing right now in their quarterfinal, the only girls team left, and we have a couple boys teams which will have the Brimley game tomorrow night here on the Eagle. Butch, let's move on to pro basketball. The Detroit Pistons, well, they haven't been in action for a while. Their last game was Friday night, a good one, as they defeat Chicago by the score of 99-33. The Pistons are in action tomorrow night in Utah, a big 6-game road trip. Right now the Pistons out of the playoff hunt at 30-36. Pretty much a make-or-break road trip. Give us an update, Butch, on the status of the Pistons.
Well, they ain't broke already. They will be after this road trip probably if they don't do anything quick, fast, and in a hurry. Everybody's calling right now for Stan Van Gundy's head. Even down to the owner, Tom Gores, is going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Stan Van Gundy at the end of the season. He has not made any amends right now here, but he did say, and he said that we're not winning enough, and that is normally a telltale sign of some changes are going to be made. Some feel that Stan Van Gundy should resume his coaching duties. I'm very disagreeable with that there.
I agree.
If he to stay there, he used to stay there maybe as a president. He has gotten some talent there, but he's been very belligerent when it comes down to the talent that he get, keeping him here, or else just getting rid of him because he just didn't fall. One of them is Reggie Jackson, per se. He has not had what you call a complete season since he's been here. He's been injury-prone. Everyone says that coming to Reggie Jackson will get us to the promised land, and it hasn't happened. The problem basically with the Pistons is they don't have people coming off that bench doing a specific job. Ish Smith was a very good guard for a minute here, but as time going on, he's worn out, okay? And again, just some the rotation with the starters there. You usually started 30, 35 minutes a game, and that just doesn't hit it in today's NBA where it's fast and furious up and down the court. You gotta have good backup people there. Luke Kennard is not giving it up, although his last game he showed some moxie there, and hopefully he shows a lot more moxie and get a lot more meaner and whatnot, especially when it comes down to playing defense. He put pretty good job against Chicago again though, but he was at least me, very much so counting on him to be a better person or a better player than he has been this year here. He's not shown the talent that he persuaded. Again, that may be Stan Van Gundy's way of doing business and putting certain players in and not giving him the time he needs. Henry Ellison is another one that I think, and I saw during summer practice and the summer games was very good. If you give this gentleman a chance and, give him so many touches with the ball to shoot, I believe he would be very helpful with the Pistons too, but that hasn't happened. The rotation with Stan Van Gundy's players, when it comes down to starters and also people coming off the bench, it's been a joke. And right now, it doesn't look good for Stan Van Gundy retaining his job with the Pistons. I'm very curious after the season's over. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs really, truly. They're going to have to really get down and dirty with this league to make any headways. Some say that Reggie Jackson might play tonight. We'll see, or tomorrow, I should say. We'll see if that happens.
Let's move on to another team that looks like they're not going to make the playoffs. The Detroit Red Wings losing last night in San Jose by the score of 5-3. The Wings now losers of 7 straight, 6 games below 500, 15 points out of the playoffs. They'll be at Los Angeles on Thursday. And what it looks like, Butch, is the Wings are playing for draft pick position. We talked about it last week. The Wings do have a lot of draft picks coming up over the next few years, including this year. Give us a State of the Red Wings update.
Well, I think the state of the Red Wings is very simple. The draft choices are nice. Again, when you draft these players, some of them have to be able to come in right away and immediately give your team a lift or a boost, and that hasn't happened with the Detroit Red Wings. They normally hold that player back for 3 or 4 years. That cannot happen no more. You're going to have to get some impact players up in here to help some of the veterans there who are getting old and not have it what it used to. Although Henry Zetterberg, congratulations to him, 950 points. He just moved ahead of Ted Lindsay, per se. Those little attaboys are fine, but again, Detroit fans want to see their hockey team in the playoffs, and there are going to have to be some definite changes in that regime as well in order to get some stability going and some fruitfulness in the attack of the Red Wings in order to be a better team, not only this year winding down, but next year coming out of the bend.
Let's move on to the Detroit Lions. They made some news today as new head coach Matt Patricia, looking at his team, wanted maybe an improvement on the linebacking core. Well, the Detroit Lions used free agency to pick up a couple players. I know you have the information, Butch. Let us know who are the new Detroit Lions today.
Well, new Detroit Lions were definitely some people that you know. Devon Kennard agreed to a 3-year, $18.75 million deal for 3 years again. And also Christian Jones of the Chicago Bears. He's a linebacker. He has a 2-year, $7.75 million deal in place. He also re-signed Tavon Wilson to a 2-year deal. Tavon Wilson got hurt during the year, if you can notice. Nagata is gone. He's with the Eagles now. Some other signings Detroit Lions made is Don Mobach. Okay, he resigned. He's their designated center, I should say, for the Detroit Lions. A pretty good doggone player, very stable player indeed. He is very important for the Lions special teams. Also, Kerry Hyder was re-signed as well. Now, there's a lot of rumors coming forth that the Lions do want to see some fresh backs there. Stewart has been called down to Detroit. He was in town yesterday. He was cut by the Carolina Panthers. And also one more back came on into town per se yesterday. I think DeMarco Murray, a pretty good doggone good back when he's allowed to play there, was in town today. There has been no moment or movement of those being signed as those two particulars also going to be seeing other teams. One of the players that is going to be eyeballed, they're being very quiet about, is Malcolm Butler. You have heard this guy's name before. He made that great interception in the Super Bowl win again with the Patriots. And last year, Glenn, when it came down, or this year, I should say, when it came down to the Super Bowl, did not play but maybe a couple of snaps in there. And the guy is peed off. He is available, and the Lions are looking forward to talking to him as well.
Butch, the Detroit Tigers a few weeks away from opening day, a 2-2 tie down in Florida. Jordan Zimmerman pitched some solid innings today. Anything to add on the Tigers, or are we just kind of looking towards opening day and seeing where the chips fall this season?
Lariano, he's looked pretty doggone steady as well for the Detroit Tigers as a pitcher there. Not really. We haven't seen Miguel Cabrera do a whole heck of a lot. Victor Martinez is getting a whole heck of a lot of time being watched there. I'm looking at some movement going on with him as far as him staying with the Detroit Tigers. He has 1 year left on his contract. He definitely wants to go ahead and do this year out. I don't know if the Tigers are very still on keeping this guy here. If they can get something for Victor Martinez as a veteran as he is, knowing that maybe this is his last year playing, I would not be doggone surprised to see this guy be moved there, okay? There have always been some other accusations that have been put up into play for the Tigers getting rid of some other players there. But again, it's a wait-and-see process. We'll probably see the 25-man roster probably next Wednesday, I would say, to get that ball humming and rolling here.
Butch, let's move on to the portion of the show we call the Roundtable. Just you and I again for the third week in a row. The good news is that this upcoming Monday, Butch, there is no district basketball, there's no regional, there's no any basketball, there's no hockey coverage. We will be back at the Wicked Sister next Monday, March 19th, but this is the part of the show where we throw some topics around. We got about 20 minutes left in the show, so Butch, I'm going to give you honors as far as what you want to talk about on tonight's Roundtable.
Let me get this garbage out the way here, boys and girls. And first and foremost, everybody knows that the first rounds of the NCAAs are going to be in Detroit this week, okay? If you have nothing to do on Thursday, the Little Caesars Arena is going to be open up for practice starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be free admission there and parking at the Olympia developed lots north of I-75 for the public. All 8 teams will be practicing about 40 minutes, and that gives you a bird's eye view if you're not going to be able to get into the arena on Friday night to see some of these teams practice. And we're talking about the teams that's going to be practicing is Arkansas, Bucknell, Butler, Cal State, Fullerton, Michigan State, Purdue, TCU, and either Arizona State or Syracuse, which I'm voting for to be in that little mix as well there. So if you got nothing else to do, get on down and deal with that. And congratulations to the WNIT berth for Indiana, Michigan State, Penn State, and Purdue for the women. They're going to be in the NIT. Get that little news out the way very quickly there. My subject is on NCAA here. Who got cheated? I mean, who got snowed very bad in the NCAA? And do you go by it that the Big Ten only had 4 able doggone teams to get in the men's Freedom Dance versus the ACC getting 9 teams there?
That's kind of where I have a little issue with the ACC getting 9 teams. The Big Ten right now, this season, I thought was very top-heavy. I mean, if you look at the teams that maybe could have gotten in the Big Ten, I mean, it was tough because you just didn't have, the mid-range of the Big Ten just wasn't as strong. I mean, teams like Wisconsin, who are usually up there, weren't there. Indiana was not good. You didn't have those usual teams that are kind of fighting. Minnesota, for example, that are kind of fighting for those slots. So I don't know if Big Ten maybe needed another team or could have gotten in. Do I think too many teams got in the ACC? Absolutely. I don't think Syracuse should have gotten in. I don't think Oklahoma should have gotten in out of the Big 12, and they get in it as a 10 seed, so obviously they were very solidly in. They did have some early season success, but they really fell off. In Arizona State, some people say maybe they shouldn't have gotten in, maybe USC should have gotten in. So, those cases right there, Butch, I think you can make arguments for Notre Dame. I mean, you can make arguments for the team out west, St. Mary's, who had a very good record, but they didn't have a very good strength of schedule. And the NCAA selection committee, it would be nice if they would just, at the beginning of the year, maybe this is an idea that's maybe far-fetched, but maybe at the beginning of the year, maybe over a couple-year period, say, you know what, guys, this is what we are looking for. Not after the fact, maybe when you hear about strength of schedule or scheduling, A, B, and C. Put it out there ahead of time, before the season, before they schedule for next season. You know what, if strength of schedule is so important, then maybe some of these schools will start scheduling a little bit stronger. You see that with Michigan State. They obviously play a strong schedule, and they're usually rewarded even when they lose those early season games. So it would be nice maybe to have a set criteria criteria that is every year used by the NCAA, so that these teams maybe that are on the bubble can say, well, you know what, we listened to the NCAA, we did what they could, and we still didn't get in. They might have a little better argument, but again, you're always going to have those one or two teams that feel slighted, and I think there is argument for a couple teams being in and a couple teams that are in being out. Butch, what say you on that topic? Good topic.
I think the topic is very legit in a way. Let's look at St. Mary's, for example. Did all they could, won games when they were scheduled to play. It is not easy for these big teams to schedule somebody like a St. Mary's and whatnot. Number one, They don't want to play them, okay? That's number two. We're looking at TV revenue that's going along with these particular teams playing in these games. Is the TV going to buy into it where basically these two teams get paid a significant amount of money for it being showed on television there? Television has a lot to do, I do believe, with some of these picks not getting in there. USC should have been in. There's no doubt about it there. And Syracuse playing an at-large game, that's a joke, okay? You can look at all this hoo-la-la all you want there, but the bottom line is there's some pretty doggone good teams. The MEAC league who got slighted and whatnot there, that is a joke. And we got some pretty good teams down south in the MEAC league, or some of those traditional black college leagues had pretty doggone good seasons and will not share one dime of time in the NCAAs, who deserve to be there, rather than maybe 9 ACC teams that basically is overwhelmingly broadcasted on television, on radio, is talked about humongously by the ACC television network and the SEC television network, those teams down south. This is a joke. When propaganda gets into play, and again, we talked about the NCAA not being the league or the place where gentlemen are doing a fair hand on deck when it comes down to picking teams going into this thing. It's going to get to the point, and I hate to say it, once upon a time, the NIT was the place to go when it comes down to the NCAA contest going on. That's way back in the late 40s, early 50s when that came about. They're going to have to either enlarge the field or do something in reminiscence of maybe the NIT winner playing the NCAA winner and getting something out of that. This is a big joke when it comes down to how they pick the team. There is no fairness at all. Fairness is dealt with in my case is instilled by equality, and there is no equality when it comes down to picking these teams. You say strength of schedule? No, wait a minute. You saying strength of schedule has nothing to do with St. Mary's and the teams they play on that West Coast. Right. No, they don't get to see a lot on television unless you have cable or unless you have a special channel network or a satellite dish to go in there. But they're sure playing teams. They're playing teams tough and rugged. And then it's the same boat as Gonzaga. And Gonzaga used to be played that way for years, okay, until they just continuously won and won and won and won. Montana's in there, pretty good doggone team out there, out west. However, they don't get it. New Mexico State. Nobody knows about New Mexico State. They did get in. I'm glad to see that because of the tournaments. That's how they got in. Now, if it wasn't for the tournament, I would see New Mexico State going to the NIT. And not because they're not a good team to play NCAA, it's because of partiality and stupidity of some of the people who pick these teams to go on in there. So, I'm going to be rooting for a New Mexico State. Sure am. They're a good doggone team. I've seen them a couple times, and they're great. Nevada is another team that people should be looking at there. They got a low seed per se. But again, they're in the NCAA because of tournament ramifications there. So something's got to be done, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Scott, that they got to have some rules that are stickling to the ribs here, and they don't have it.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, we got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to give you an option on which topic I want to bring up. So you're going to have a choice of one of the following, and you will pick which one you want to discuss. Topic 1, NCAA tournament, brackets, who you got, who's your Final Four, who's your champion. Or topic 2, or B, talking about WrestleMania, a few weeks away. I want to know, we talk about the four horsemen. I'm not talking about the four horsemen themselves, but if you were to pick the four horsemen in wrestling history, you could only pick 4. Who are your four horsemen of wrestling? All time, now, your best 4 wrestlers, the only 4. You can only take 4. Which topic would you like to take, sir? Topic 1 or topic 2?
Oh, boy, that would be a good one. Bobo Brazil would be my first one.
All right, well, there you go. So we'll take that topic. So, Butch, continue.
Bobo Brazil would be my first one as a horseman. We can talk about both of the brackets and stuff there.
Oh, we'll get them both in, absolutely.
Yeah, but throw them on in there. I would say the Sheik would be number 2. Okay, in that mirage of it. Ric Flair, you can't pass up on him at all. That would be number 3 for me. Number 4, the one right now who has, and I'm going to the modern era right now. I would say. And they don't give him a lot of credit. They boo him, they cheer him, whatever it may be. I would say Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns belonged there. You know, I think it's unfair the way the WWE has treated that man, and Nia Jax as well. Okay, which is, by the way, both of them are cousins. Okay, and the way they're being treated with this particular there is just so unreal. I do believe that Nia Jax is going to go to WrestleMania and dealing with Alexa Bliss. I believe that's going to happen. I believe that Bayley's going to go against her buddy there. I believe that's going to happen. I believe that and I called it last week here that that the young lady who won the Battle Royal there would go against Charlotte Flair would be a better match. And
right.
By golly, they heard that here, or somebody heard it, because that's the person she picked to go against. Go in there. Everybody knows that's the match of the ages right there. Let's talk about the Raw last night was just a joke. It was a joke the first half of the show, up to 10 o'clock, and that's when it got excited. And when you can't sit up there and you have not made one drop promise for the big man to go in there, who beat the crap out of everybody in the ring, and he has no place in WrestleMania as of yet, but probably will get one now, okay? And he might pick some surprise or some person going in there with him as a tag team opponent. That's going to be unreal. We get to hear about the Undertaker a whole heck of a lot there. Undertaker, I don't know if he's ready to do any bidding or not after 2 hip surgeries and whatnot there. You might see John Cena team up with the big man in that tag team event there. That would not surprise me with a doggone there. Somewhere down the line. I'm going to stop talking because I know you got a lot to say about it.
Love it, Butch. You can keep talking all you want, but I will chime in a bit. As far as the four horsemen of wrestling, I'm going to limit this to the era that I have watched wrestling, and you got to put this guy in the four horsemen. As far as I'm concerned, you got to put in Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was the guy when I was a little kid that got everybody excited about wrestling, and he was the face, and he was the guy that really put it on the map. On that same coin, you got to put Ric Flair in there, as you said, Butch, a guy that did the time. We didn't see as much of him up here because we didn't get to see a lot of the WCW, NWA, the divisions Ric Flair was in. We got to see Flair a little bit towards the mid to end of his career in the WWE. You can really choose a bunch of different other guys as far as the four horsemen of wrestling. I got to put The Undertaker in there. I mean, this is a guy, one of the few guys that's still wrestling and that's still main eventing WrestleManias that was doing that when I was a little kid. And, will he be at WrestleMania? I believe he will. I hope he is. And we shall see. The fourth one is kind of tough because, you can go you could do a few ones. I mean, some people will say John Cena. I know that's not the most popular. He's very polarizing figure as far as the WWE. I liked a little bit of what happened last night there, sipping a beer and kind of becoming a little more edgy, if you will. Stone Cold and The Rock, those guys just, you could put them in there, but they just didn't have enough longevity. They didn't have very long careers. Shawn Michaels is another one. Again, this is just the generation where I've started to watch, and you mentioned a few of the others there I would totally agree with. I mean, you got Bruno Sammartino if you want to go way back along with others. So those are my four horsemen of wrestling, and pretty excited about WrestleMania. We'll have to watch the Raw and SmackDown. Didn't see much of Raw so far from last night, but we'll be watching that later on this week. Well, Butch, let's transition here. Let's do our final topic as far as brackets and who you got as far as teams maybe to watch. You mentioned a few, your Final Four and your national champions. So, Butch, I'll give you honors. Who you got?
The Final Four. Oh, boy. There's the Final Four. And I printed up these brackets yesterday about 4 times. I'm going to take my main one here. Final Four. I got, I have Cincinnati, Purdue, Michigan, and also, let me pull this on out the head here. It's between Purdue and New Mexico State here. I don't see Michigan State advancing there. I see Michigan in there in the Final Four, and I see Michigan as a champion there.
Wow.
I'm looking at that team the way they're going right now, and with 1 week's worth of rest to relax and do some dang on things here to get themselves together, polarize, and get everybody well. They may go very, very far. Again, and I picked Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati and how they were working it there. West Virginia is another team I like there, but Purdue is a surprising team. Watch out for them. Michigan State, I picked them to go far, but again, a team like New Mexico State that many people have not seen, okay, and taking a look at, they're going to end up being pitted up against them. I'm not worried about Michigan State and Duke, okay, or maybe Michigan and North Carolina, okay, because those are going to be 2 games that basically hits the Sweet 16, and they're going to have to bid high for it. But again, all those particular teams like Arizona and Virginia, I'm looking at that particular game. Villanova and West Virginia is another game that I'm particularly going to look forward to if they get that far. It's a lot to be desired, but I picked Michigan to be the one to be the champion.
Butch, I will go next here as far as my bracket. Looking at the South, I do have Virginia coming out of there. I do see that one of their players who won Sixth Man Award is out a little bit. In that bracket, a couple teams that I like, lower seeds. I like Nevada, as you mentioned, Butch, over Texas, and I actually have Nevada beating Cincinnati, and I like Loyola Chicago to knock off Miami in that one. They're an 11 seed, but I got Virginia coming out over Tennessee in that bracket. The West bracket, that one I have kind of a couple surprises in this one. I have South Dakota State at 12 beating number 5 Ohio State, the Jackrabbits. I like their game. And my final in the West, I have Gonzaga knocking off Xavier, who I think might be the weakest of the 4 number 1 seeds. And I have Gonzaga knocking off Michigan in the Elite 8, so Gonzaga comes out of there as a 4 seed. In the East, I have Villanova coming out over Purdue, a 1 and 2. I do have Marshall, probably my biggest upset, maybe just because I'd like to see this team do well. I have Marshall topping Wichita State, a 13 over a 4. And in the Midwest, I do have Chaos as part of the bracket. Butch, you mentioned New Mexico State. I like them over Clemson. I like them to get to the Sweet 16, as a matter of fact. But I have Kansas and Michigan State. Now, I'm doing something that I normally do not do. I never pick the teams that I like to win. I don't do it. I'm doing it this year. I got Michigan State coming out of the Midwest, so that sets up Final Four, Virginia, Gonzaga, Villanova, Michigan State. I got the Zags in Michigan State, with Michigan State cutting down the nets with all the turmoil around them. They have the talent. Can they do it? We shall see. I never pick them, but I'm picking them this year. So you have Michigan. I have Michigan State. Butch, let the games begin, my friend.
Yes, sir, for real. They start tonight here with the game-in games there. A couple of them tonight, a couple of them tomorrow, and away we go here with some great basketball for the next 3 weeks.
Yes, indeed. Butch, let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. I will give you honors, so what you got?
Oh, man. Boy. I really blew that one off in the decent. Let's go. let's go for what they're doing at Little Caesars Arena, where they're going to let those fans in there for free and free parking and whatnot there to see some free basketball practices, I should say, from the Little Caesars Arena on Thursday all day for 40 minutes, 40 times 8. You add up the time there so fans can check out the basketball, check out the teams, and buy some free beer and deal with the 4 Little Caesars restaurants in the building. And I'll look at that as being my goodies there. The thumbs down was the way they did Raw last night. That was the poorest Raw that I've seen in a long time there. A lot of talking, no wrestling, some of the same redundant stuff that goes on there. Did not show up was the man and Roman Reigns and the owner, Vince McMahon, got into it when he is now suspended. Okay, well, he wasn't going to wrestle no way there, but I believe there's something going on in the WWE where a lot of wrestlers are not showing up.
Yeah, it does seem to be pretty prevalent going on right now, Butch. I'll get to my thumbs up and thumbs down. First thumbs up to the UP hockey teams. No, not Lake Superior State University. They are not in the playoffs, but Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech both springing, well, maybe not upsets for Northern Michigan's case, but Michigan Tech and Northern will meet in the WCHA championship game. Now, they changed the format in the WCHA. They don't do the Final Fours in half-empty arenas like Minneapolis or past years, other empty stadiums. They're doing it on the campus of Northern Michigan University. Tickets went on sale Monday. Lines were 2-3 hours long. People wanting to pack the Berry Event Center. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And a special congratulations to their first-year head coach, Joe Shawn, who, well, he's finally gotten his opportunity, which was long overdue in my opinion, and, well, no surprise, he's winning. He's been a winner pretty much anywhere he's coached, and so best of luck to Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech, because we are assured at least one UP team and one Michigan team in the NCAA hockey tournament, which will be announced here this weekend. And want to give a thumbs down to big conferences getting teams selected that shouldn't be there. Butch, you had a great topic, and, you look at teams like Syracuse. No conference should get 9 teams in when you're leaving out teams like St. Mary's and some of these other smaller conferences like Butch mentioned that, these teams deserve a shot. You shouldn't be 9th place in the league and get in. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I do not like it. Butch, what does your week look like as far as things you are covering before we get to a Monday night show back at the Wicked Sister?
The same sucked up week you got here, buddy. Covering
yes.
Covering some basketball here. I'll be covering River Rouge and also Wayne Memorial. The girls, we might have to go down to Calvin to see again Wayne Memorial there. That I'm an employee up there now here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really. So that's going to be something to behold there. Like I said, a lot of surprises this week here. I'm going to go see Michigan State on Friday night. I'm going to go see that. Go step on in place. I was credentialed for it. They approved my credential, so I'll be down there to check that on out there. And have a little fun this weekend and enjoy some great basketball.
Absolutely. That's Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports. Again, you can find him on the podcast page of this show, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. You can also find his podcast page at simplybutch2. That's too.podomatic.com. Butch, have a great week. Get some rest when you can. Enjoy the basketball, and we'll be back at our home at the Wicked Sister next Monday night. What do you think? Sound good?
That sounds great there.
All right, and I want to thank Butch Davis and thank all of you for listening tonight. Once again, we'll be back at the Wicked Sister next Monday night, March 19th, 6 o'clock on the radio, 6 to 7, the full 2-hour show available on the podcast page of the game. And once again, that's thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Don't forget, tomorrow night we have Brimley Bay's regional final action in Sault Ste. Marie, as the Brimley Bays will take on the Cedarville Trojans. Yours truly, along with Todd Olmstead and Vance Nason, will have the call around 5:40, the pregame show, 6 o'clock, opening tip. That's going to do it for the game. We'll talk to you soon here on Eagle 95.1.